It's great to be here in the wonderful state of Nevada that has been key to our national nuclear security since the start of our nuclear program and all the way through today. Unfortunately, I'm here in far less than ideal circumstances. Unfortunately, we were forced today to furlough federal employees, virtually all of our federal employees that work at this office here. The majority of the work are contractors in our efforts in Nevada. Over 3,000 workers are at our site, the Nevada nuclear security sites north of here where we'll be headed next. We worked within the Trump administration, across the administration, in the DOE and OMB to find creative ways to keep funding, to keep our contractors employed, at least through the end of the month. This is critical for two reasons. Number one, this is thousands of families that are working hard, patriots, to support our country and build the systems that are critical to protect the sovereignty of our nation. We want to keep those families employed and keep the stress level as low as possible. Number two, it is our national security. These are jobs of great gravity. We need to maintain our nuclear stockpile, have our adversaries confident that we have our stuff together, we have a secure and ready to deploy at a moment's notice stockpile. Testing, when we developed our stockpile, underground testings of nuclear devices were conducted here in Nevada. Fortunately, we stopped that over 30 years ago, and we have gone to a more high-tech simulation and small-scale but non-nuclear explosions to research and maintain our stockpile. This work is critical. The humans working on it are critical. We need to open the federal government as quickly as we can to assure we don't overly impact the lives of thousands and soon tens of thousands of employees who are critical to our security. And we need to take our national security seriously. The Republican bill is a clean spending bill. It just continues the spending levels exactly as they were before. This is a Biden budget that has been continued on through continuing resolutions to today. Fortunately, we've had bipartisan votes and majority votes in both the House and the Senate to keep our government open, including one of the great senators here in Nevada, Senator Cortez Masto. I thank her for her courage and for standing with our workers here in Nevada and with our country's national security. The other Nevada Senator, Rosen, has also been a stalwart supporter of the Nevada nuclear security sites and the workers here. And her last vote, she abstained. I think she wants to vote with us. I think she's going to be part of reopening the government. If you can call or reach out to her, that would be helpful. We want to get the government open as soon as we can. We want to keep all the families employed, and we want to keep on top of the critical work to not only maintain our existing nuclear stockpile, but push forward our efforts to modernize and advance that. I thank everyone for being here, and I'll take any questions you have.
All right, if you have a question, just raise your hand and state your name and outlet.
Ricardo with the Las Vegas Review Journal. Can you break down how many employees were furloughed? Was it clear 3,000 total, but how many employees here?
So unfortunately, we have run out of federal funds for federal workers. So here it's 68 employees were furloughed today, but all of the federal workers that we have here. Across the National Nuclear Security Administration, we've had to furlough 1,400 employees across the country. This has never happened before. The NNSA, our umbrella organization, it's been grouped together for 25 years. We've never furloughed workers in the NNSA. This should not happen. But this was as long as we could stretch the funding for the federal workers. We were able to do some gymnastics and stretch it further for the contractors.
Yes.
So the ultimate guarantor of the United States sovereignty is our nuclear arsenal. The work in Nevada was critical in designing and developing those weapons, and today we need to maintain them. We need to make sure they're all in ready working order. We need to understand when it's time to rotate out and replace weapons. A critical work for that is done here in Nevada. We also have work here to try to sense any nuclear materials that go missing, the terrorists or state actors that are trouble. We have key expertise here in monitoring those kind of activities. We also work in cybersecurity. We also work in next generation design of weapons and testing of systems up north at the Nevada nuclear security sites. So a lot of critical work here is done in Nevada. And of course, this is hard work. It takes expertise, it takes commitment. And we've assembled such a tremendous workforce that are both union and non-union. Some are contractors, some are federal government employees, but you have expertise and you have a workforce that's working well together. The last thing we want to do is see that workforce disrupted. If people are out of work too long, they go get other jobs. That's a loss to our country, that's a loss to those families.
Over here, sir. Name and outlet, please.
Josh Figueroa with Channel 8. How do you bring Nevadans, people who live in southern Nevada, the effect of what it means to have the government shut down? And I say that because some people say, well, it's not affecting my direct life right now, right? I work on the hotel casino strip. I work at a industry unrelated to the Department of Energy. But how would you bring that message to some local Nevadans who may not feel the impact themselves of the actual shutdown?
Yeah, and look, of course, the Trump administration has worked hard every day to try to minimize those effects. You know, we did everything we could to keep our federal workers here employed as long as possible, but unfortunately, today is the day our ability to deploy funds to pay those workers ended. So this is the start of federal furloughs in the NNSA, and we have far more, over 3,000 contractors working here in the state of Nevada, and they're in a different status, and we can use different funds to pay them. I spoke with a number of great workers earlier today that have raised families, children, grandchildren, and lives that are at risk. Their jobs and careers are at risk. That's stress in front of families. We want to reduce that stress. And I also say beyond the direct families, think of our adversaries abroad. This is among the most critical workers in our country. They test, maintain, and ultimately construct the modernized version of our nuclear stockpile. We need to take that deathly serious. We've never had to furlough workers in this area before. We need to end this as soon as possible. Again, I thank Senator Cortez Masto, and I plead to Senator Rosen, who has stood for these workers and has stood for the importance of our nuclear security, to move her vote from abstain to in favor of continuing the funding. Of course, there's going to be debates and negotiations about particular spending bills. That's what the House and Senate are all about. But let's do it with the government open, with all of our workers being paid, and with all of our critical national security work moving forward.
Other questions?
Secretary Honors, the contractors continue to get paid at the end of the month. If this shutdown continues past that date, do you anticipate that those contractors will have to evaluate and start shutting down those?
That is exactly the risk. You know, I thought we would be starting to do that today. It's only on Friday and over the weekend. I would say the great creative work of the Trump administration about we cannot let these workers go. We have about 100,000 total contractors in the Department of Energy across our national labs and our nuclear complex. We want to keep all those people employed. But yes, if the creative extra funding we found, when it runs out, it'll be layered at different locations, but tens of thousands of critical workers, their families, and our national security become at risk. We should not be playing games with this. This is Chuck Schumer worried about his personal primary. This is one person who thinks we've got to do something. No matter how hapless it is, no matter how destructive it is for our country, we have to do something to look relevant. We got to think about our country first and our families first.
All right. Any other questions? Anyone else?
There's some discussion about potentially carving out some exceptions for some people, such as people in aviation, for example, flight controllers. Is there any discussion about how we could do the same thing for nuclear workers?
There is. And of course, there are people that it's too risky, even in the short run, to not have. So there will be carve-outs. We did not furlough everyone at NNSA, but we did furlough the large majority. but there is a certain number of mission critical folks that are still working. And the same will be true for contractors. But in both cases, the large majority will be furloughed. And we're going to do everything we can to avoid that outcome.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any of your employees, Department of Energy, especially stationed here in Nevada, that might have received a risk?
I am not aware of that.
All right, we're going to take some time now to do individual pull-asides with anybody interested. So if you are interested, raise your hand and stick around, and we'll make our way through.
Thanks again to everyone for being here. From the press, you play an essential role in our society, and I thank also critical workers we have and union representatives who represent proud, hardworking, patriotic Americans. God bless you all. Thank you for the work you do every day. Thank you for being here today. We're fighting for you. We want to get you and all your teammates back to work. Good for their families, good for our country. Thank you for your leadership.